So what do you want me to do, just open
Open it
the,
up.
Let public
See if
comment
there's any
and then
public
close
comment.
session.
anybody from the public wanna talk? We got anybody in from the public?
Nope, none.
Okay, with that, we'll close the meeting and go to, closed session. city council meeting for Tuesday, May 10th. And Tom, are you gonna need to report?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the council and public, council did meet in closed session beginning at 5 PM, or 5:30 PM rather, to discuss an economic development opportunity, as well as get an update on 2 litigation cases. No reportable action was taken.
With that, let's do the pledge of allegiance. Leo, please. And remain standing for the prayer.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we come before you and we thank you for how richly you have blessed us in the city of Ripon and the freedoms that we are able to enjoy. We thank you for a police department that takes care of it, well, good care of us, and a fire department looking after us. Please pray that you would keep them safe and as they go about their duties, Lord. We just pray for wisdom tonight in all that is said, that good decisions would be made, and think you would be honored through it all. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Lisa, did we ever do, we didn't do roll call.
No, you're doing it now.
Oh, okay, all right. Roll call.
Councilmember Barton.
Present.
Daniel DeGraff.
Here.
Leo Zuber.
Here.
Vice Mayor Mike Rstucci.
Present.
Mayor Dean Euchre.
Here. With that, we'll move on to the public discussion. Does anybody have anything from the public that is not on the agenda? Is it on the agenda? No, go ahead. Go up to the. You need to go up to the balcony thing there and give your name and your address. Podium. Balcony, podium. What's this? It's not the same thing.
Second floor. Too much time in Tahoe.
My brain's still fried.
Yeah, my name's Jack Mendonca. My address is 1443 Harvest Drive, Ripon, California. I have a question to ask. I've been to many meetings on the other side where they have the police have a meeting and anybody that has problems, they talk about it. Well, I've got a problem where I found that I had to come here to get anything done. I live on Harvest Drive, and I'm like 2 houses from Pecan Avenue. The biggest problem I have, and a lot of people that live on Harvest, is when people come around the corner off of Pecan on the Harvest, they're doing the same speed limit as they do when they're coming around the corner to go down. Now, the problem we're having is, you have to be exceptionally careful when you back out of your driveway. The gentleman that lives on the corner on the right-hand side is Tony Munez. His car's been hit 2 or 3 times. The guy down the street, he's a retired fireman. His truck's been hit. What I'm asking is if the city can put a stop sign on Pecan Drive, or whatever road that is, going into Harvest Drive. That'll at least slow them down. I'm not gonna say it's gonna stop because this, excuse me, the stop sign on Harvest Drive going onto Pecan, it's just there for decoration. I don't know of anybody that stops. And it's not a big deal, I guess, but to some, but that tree on Harvest and Hughes is, I don't know how many times that tree's been hit from running stop signs. People coming down Pecan, I had 2 gentlemen that were supposed to be here to help me out, and they live on Pecan. Oh, I don't want to come down. Oh, I got something to do. Well, they were telling me today that some guy's doing like 60 miles an hour down there. They travel, because there's nothing to slow them down on Pecan. When they go down Pecan either way, they're flying. And when they come up Harvest Drive off of Jack Tone, they're flying. They come up to the stop sign, some of them stop. We have very different people that don't stop. And they kind of roll through it. It's not a big deal, but it's the ones that don't roll through it. And I was just wondering if you guys can put a stop sign on Pecan going into Harvest both ways. If you can't do both, do one. And that, my suggestion would be from the south onto Harvest Drive. Because when I back out of my driveway, I'm the second house from the corner. So when I back out, or my wife, we can see all the way down Harvest to Jacktone. So if it's clear, it's fine. But when you're backing out, you have to keep looking this way, keeping your eye on Pecan. There's been so many times that we'd be halfway out of the driveway. Here comes some person, and I'm not talking young people, all ages, come flying around that turn, and, you know, they either go around us and on the sidewalk across the street, or they'll cut in front of us and go straight. So that's my thing. Nobody's been hurt, nobody's been hit, no pedestrian has been hit. There's never been a car accident that I can remember with people in it. It's always hitting parked cars. But there's gonna be a time, and it only takes once, that, you know, I've got a fairly brand new car, my wife's got and, you know, we don't want it in the shop. You know, I mean, and you guys married that's got wives that don't want their cars in the anyway. Yeah, so I just wondering if you,
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but you're way over your time limit, and there ain't really nothing we can do about it at this point, but what you need to do is get with the chief, and we will make sure that something's potentially.
I can't hear you, you're gonna have to speak up. I'm sorry.
Well, we'll get with the chief, and we'll have him look at it,
All right,
okay?
I've been to the police department.
Okay, we will make sure that he looks at it and gets back to us and tells us what the situation is over there, okay?
Okay, sounds good. That's
All right.
it? All right, thank you. Have a
Thank you.
good evening.
Okay. I ain't cutting people off. It's just bad.
That's all we can do. They gotta do a study.
Right.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Vice Mayor, council members, staff, and especially the community. My name is Joel Reyna. Very pleased to be here this evening to introduce myself as a new director for the San Joaquin County Fair in Stockton. And it's my pleasure to announce that after 2 years of closures because of the pandemic, we are having the county fair this June 3rd through the 5th, and I'm here to officially hand out a couple of posters to staff, hoping that they'll be put out. And just let you know that tickets are $5. There is 3 days of safe family fun to be had by all residents, and because, of course, we're neighbors with Ripon, as county neighbors, I wanted to make sure that I stopped by as soon as these posters were available this morning to come out today after work to share them with you. So please come out. We have a Tom Petty tribute band on one day, an Eagles tribute band on another, and there will be, of course, the Midway. Great fun, great music, a petting zoo, I think. There is jugglers, there's magicians. So please come out June 3rd through the 5th. This little barcode gets you all the ticket information and your calendar. And of course, we have a website, and you can also follow them on Instagram. Thank you so much for your time. Have a good evening. Yes, sir.
Will the horse races be back?
Horse races at the moment are all video and streamlined, just because we need some repairs on the tracks.
Okay.
Yes.
So that could be a potentially, could happen in the future?
It could potentially come back. Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Cool.
He's got money burning a hole in his pocket.
I'm ready for it, sir. Thank you.
I had the 21 this weekend.
Well done, sir.
I wish.
Thank you so much. Enjoy your evening. Thank you.
Okay. Let's see. Approve of the minutes as,
So move. I'll move that we approve the regular meeting and the workshop minutes.
Second.
You have to do the thing up there.
We have no vote thing.
I forgot about that. Mover, second. And, I didn't even vote. Or maybe I got the other vote. Okay, approval of minutes, approval of the agenda is posted.
This is where they
Okay, anything else? With that, we have an approval?
Make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
Sorry.
Whoa,
Oh, I think I did it, I got
No,
too
you're
carried
all
away.
you did the second, but that's fine.
Okay. All right, then with that, all right, what,
Figure it.
Well, we can make a motion to, I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar as amended, then we'll follow up with the one that, I need to step out for the other one.
Second. No, hit it now, I second.
Yeah, now make sure you guys hit the right one.
Yeah. No, I hit the wrong one, he hit the wrong one.
I did it
You guys
twice.
do 1.2H, I gotta step out. Let me-
Okay.
Okay, so
What is it?
what is 1.28?
That's his previous
Oh, it's his
employer.
company again.
Oh, all right.
I'll
So-
move to approve 1.28.
Second. What's that?
Don't go too far, Daniel.
Yeah.
So,
Who voted no?
nobody, it was the 4 abstain.
I'm kidding.
Okay, let's see.
Wait, did it go through?
It's hung up. That says I voted yes.
Says the
Oh, no,
mover and
no.
second, but no votes.
Yeah, it's hung up. Yeah, I need to be not present, not abstain, right?
Yeah.
Oh, is that why you did that? You can't,
He can't be here.
I know, but that's why I don't think it registered.
Yeah, they gotta do it on
They
their
gotta
end.
manually register it, I think. No, take your time.
What the hell? What else we gotta do?
You don't have anything else going on?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a basketball game going on tonight.
Yeah, but you're watching it right there, so what's?
There is? That was last night. Where are you taking us?
We have it in the record that it passed 4-0.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. Go on, move on. I got it.
Okay.
All the hors d'oeuvres for you.
All right, let's see, where are we at now?
2A.
2A, resolutions?
Yep.
Okay, resolution of the city council of the city of Ripon approving the implementation of a mandatory organic waste green container be provided to all residents, customers receiving garbage services from the city of Ripon. James?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, Honorable City Council. So this is a resolution that will allow the city to move forward with providing and utilizing a green can for each residential customer, and it also authorizes the mayor to sign for the purchase of 1,250 new green cans and to begin those installs. Each of you does have a red line version of the resolution in front of you. There was a minor change that we added to incorporate our municipal code, chapter 8.12, garbage collection and disposal. The details that you see in the staff report were discussed at our April 25th council workshop, but essentially, this is our first phase to implement the state mandated Senate Bill 1383 requirements. This green can will be used to collect green waste, landscaping waste, and then organic food waste. And so for this first phase, the green cans will be provided to all the residents. They will be charged the current rate of $3 per month per can, and then whatever the current rates are after that. City staff will be adjusting our garbage collection operations to account for the additional cans. And then we'll continue evaluating the cost effectiveness of our entire program and compliance with SB 1383 as we implement future phases. And the fiscal impact for this first phase is that initial capital purchase of the cans, which is $88,000 roughly, and then an operational expense increase of approximately $85,000 annually. So we're currently working on our educational and outreach program, and we expect to get information out to our residents very soon, as soon as we kind of finalize exactly what goes in that can with our disposal facility. So with that, I would be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
I have one. I just want to clarify. Things are going to be sent out to people about what can and can't go in that can before we start doing it.
Yeah, absolutely, and our plan is not to start implementing the program or this first phase until we actually receive these cans. We're probably looking at about a 3-month lead time, 3 to 4 month lead time on the cans. But we do want to get information out as soon as possible to the residents, once that information is available. And maybe there's multiple stages of that
Yeah,
that
maybe, would
education.
it be a good idea, do you think, to just have a nice big form and pop it on that green can when you deliver it?
Well, actually, Mr. Mayor, that is part of the requirement for new cans that we deliver. So yes, that will be
That'll be
part
done.
of the,
Probably won't be no good, but,
that'll be part of the educational portion when we deliver the new cans.
yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay, so, but a lot of people have green cans already. What percentage of the city actually has green can? Because I think my whole neighborhood, I think everybody's got a green can.
About 70%.
Yeah, we're right around
Yeah.
70 to
So,
73%.
They should be able to help other people out too. Hey, what's that green can for? You know, so, anyway, okay, well, any other questions?
I have a comment. You want to make a comment? Yeah, I just have some comments to make that I think are important. First, I know you put it in there, and I appreciate the fact that it's a unfunded state mandate on all the taxpayers. You know, we've asked the state for the metrics, the science behind all this, to see where we're starting, where we're going, the cost-benefit analysis, and we have not got that. The state's forcing higher costs on residents without providing documentation why they're doing it. Maybe it's fine, but, you know, usually when something's good, you kind of share the information you have, and they're not willing to share that information. Just be clear, this is not the city mandating, this is the state. It's a tax on everybody, and it's, you know, what's not showing up in any of this is now your businesses have additional CapEx to fund, just like we got a CapEx this thing, and then I've talked to businesses, the operating expenses are going up. So an unfunded mandate, you know, another thing to help break every middle-class citizen in this state. And if we had information, maybe we could all support it. I don't have enough, I mean, we have to, we have no choice, but I just think it's poor leadership not to share information, to get people on board to really understand the decision we're making, other than if you don't, you're in trouble, so.
Here, here.
Yeah, I agree.
What were you gonna say?
Yeah. So with that, I guess,
I'll
anybody-
move to adopt the resolution. Second.
Okay, that was adopted 5-0. Moving on, discussion item, pension rate stabilization program, something retirement trust. Can't see it. Who's that?
That's me, Mr. Mayor.
All right, Lisa?
So as you know, staff and council have been talking about the idea of a Section 115 trust for more than a year. The idea was presented at the April 2021 Strategic Planning Workshop, and a working session was done in September by PARS to present the concept of a Section 115 trust being used to pre-fund pension obligations. For your background, a Section 115 trust is a tax-exempt investment vehicle authorized by the IRS to pre-fund government obligations. Assets held within the trust are designated as irrevocable, meaning that the assets may only be used to fund the city's defined benefit retirement plans. Monies placed within the trust can be invested according to the rules of the trust, which are different than the investment rules of the city, which we are required to do for our other investments such as LAIF and Bank of New York. Because of the rules associated with the trust, in theory, the funds placed within the trust can earn a higher rate of return than if the city invested the funds. Funds placed within the trust can remain there until such time that the city chooses to draw those down to pay for benefit obligations, including normal costs or the annual UAL payment to CalPERS. As you know, the city is unique to other California cities because the city's police officers and sworn personnel are the only people that participate in the defined benefit retirement plan. The defined benefit plan provides a guaranteed income after retirement based on the employee's salary and years of of service. While the employee is working with the city is required to pay CalPERS the normal cost to fund the future retirement payments for that individual. The normal cost is calculated based on actuarial assumptions, including interest rates and mortality. In addition to the normal cost, the city is charged an unfunded actuarial liability, which is the UAL that we pay annually. This represents the difference between what was paid in through the normal cost of the current calculated amount needed to fund the retired employee's compensation. CalPERS has made certain changes to their actuarial assumptions that have significantly increased pension liabilities to the city. There's a graph in the staff report showing the city's historical and projected normal costs in UAL through 2050. As of the most recent PERS report dated June 30th, 2020, the city's UAL is $5 million with future annual payments ranging from $350,000 to $580,000. Even though our UAL is not as significant as other cities because of our employees, staff has evaluated establishing a Section 115 to mitigate this liability. We have looked at 3 different firms to manage this Section 115 retirement trust, and we reviewed the firm's experience in serving local government clients and establishing these trusts, their investment performance, their fees, and references. Based upon the criteria, staff is recommending the city move forward with PARS to administer the Section 115 retirement trust because of their list of clients, many of which are local cities that have positive experiences with them, and because they also experience the highest rate of return. As you saw in the staff report, they also have the highest administrative fee, but comparatively, it is immaterial. The next steps to establish this trust for the city is noted in the staff report, and they would be to approve a resolution appointing a plan administrator and authorizing the mayor to execute a contract with PARS. Then PARS would work with staff to survey the council on risk tolerance and an investment amount, which we would be doing in the next few months. We would then be looking to adopt an investment policy for the Section 115 trust, which would include risk tolerance, investment amount, and how the trust is to be used to fund CalPERS obligations. And then finally, we will establish the Section 115 trust and deposit the funds, which we would hope to have completed by November 2022 at the latest. As noted in the staff report, the fiscal impacts to the city will vary based upon the amounts invested in the trust and the investment policy adopted by the City Council. The recommended action for tonight would be for council to direct staff to draft a resolution to participate in the Section 115 Retirement Trust and prepare an agreement with PARS to administer the city's pension rate stabilization program. And we would bring this back for future City Council approval in June. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Anybody got questions for Lisa? You know Mike does.
No, I don't have any questions. I got
So do you need a motion to direct you, or
I would like a motion to direct me, yes.
so moved?
Second.
That's it. Yep. Cool. That was adopted. 5-0.
Doing a
With-
good job, Lisa.
That's right, pressure's on.
With that, we will move to the budget discussion. I would imagine that's Mr. Warner.
It is. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Tonight, I just wanted to take a few moments to talk about the upcoming budget. What I'm planning to do is similar to what I did last year, maybe last couple of years, is to go through this in a couple different workshops with the council. Obviously, a few months ago, or a few weeks ago, I don't know how long ago now. We had a strategic planning meeting that really set a lot of the direction that has been incorporated as part of the budget. So really what I wanted to do with this workshop and in the next workshop is focus on some of the things that are changing from the previous budgets that we've discussed. So tonight is really focused on general fund revenue. The next workshop is more focused on expenses, debt of the city, and some staffing. So with that, if you don't mind going to the next slide. So this is a similar slide that we've shown in the past. The dashed line on there corresponds to the right side of the figure, which is the general fund balance over the year. First half of the year, like in other years, we do end up in a deficit situation, and that's why we have the reserves we do. And then the second half is when we start getting the revenue to eliminate that deficit. Right now, for the 21-22 budget, or at least where we're at through April, revenue right now is 7.5% higher than what I had initially budgeted for this time in the year, which is about $785,000 of an increase. Expenses, and I would say that that's largely attributed to sales tax. I don't know if you noticed on the agenda today, but what we received so far compared to what we received last year at this time is about $1 million higher. So that's where we're really seeing that increase. Yeah. Expenses are about 1% higher than what was budgeted. That accounts for about $115,000. A lot of that is just inflation, like everyone else. We're seeing that in gas prices, price of cell phones. I mean, really everything that we do in business is increasing right now. I would estimate at this point in time the general fund surplus, and this is before any transfers, would be about $1 million. What we normally see in transfers is close to $500,000. This includes money we put aside for capital replacement. I think a few years ago, we put together a very large spreadsheet that lists all of the capital items of the city, replacement costs and life, and then we figured out how much needs to be put away each year to accomplish that replacement. And then there is additional transfers that happens to make landscape districts that run in deficits to make them whole. And then we do have a loan, Rage Volleyball revenue that comes into the city is being transferred as part of a loan to, that allowed that parking lot adjacent to Rage Volleyball to move forward. After that, the money that's left over is considered the surplus, and then that has been a lot of discussion over the years. One of the policies of the city council is 33% of that goes to street and road replacement, really taking care or putting money aside to deal with the worst roads in Ripon. And then these funds have also allowed the city to build up contingency funds. These aren't the reserve funds. They're a midline defense that allows us to deal with short-term economic downturns, similar like what we saw with COVID and what we may see going forward with some of the uncertainties that are going on with both the global and national economies. But it allows us to continue providing the services that we provide without cutting those services if we have a short-term deficit situation. And then other priorities of the council is discussed as part of how we allocate those surpluses. This one is one that I think is interesting. It shows the general fund revenue and the expenses pre-recession, through the recession, and since. Again, this is before transfers. And I should have mentioned this earlier. The reason I like to show it this way, I feel like it shows really the health of the general fund. Because sometimes transfers could adjust some of that, and it complicates it a little bit. So I think this gives the clearest picture of what's happening. But from 2020-21 to the current fiscal year, 21-22, we're looking at a 10% increase in overall revenue. What I have included or projected at this time in the 22-23 budget is a reduction of about 2%, a little bit more than between 2 and 3% of revenue from last year. So that would be annual revenue about $13.7 million. The other thing that's interesting in this graph, if you go back to 2011-12, about 10 years, on average, the annual increase in revenue was about 6%, which matches the increases in expenses, which tells you that we're not overspending. We're really spending the money the additional money that we're getting. The last thing you want is where you cross. Your expenses increase at a faster rate, and then at some point, that's when you do end up in a structural deficit. Just real quick, we're going to talk about this in more detail in the next couple of slides, but obviously a lot of uncertainties right now in the economy. We're seeing some of this already with development fees and property tax revenue, a lot of fluctuation in sales tax revenue, especially COVID, pre-COVID, some of the stuff that was happening and then now we're seeing some pretty significant fluctuations. The positive that's happened in over the last year, we have received, or we are receiving $3.9 million because of lost revenue through COVID. So that's money that we talked about at the strategic planning meeting, and really allocating that revenue in line with the strategic priorities of the city council. So these are the largest general fund revenue sources. These make up about 60% of the total general fund revenue, and these are really the ones that represent the largest fluctuations when downturns happen or any sort of uncertainty is happening. The blue line on there, that's the sales tax revenue. You can see even going all the way to the left in year 17-18, it's at $3 million. 21, this fiscal year now, 21-22, we're seeing $4 million of projected revenue. So $1 million of fluctuations in that, again, largely the sale of fuel. But we've also seen, and I'll show it in another slide here, some increases in commercial development as well. For the proposed budget, I'm right now projecting a decline of about 8% for for the 22-23 budget, a decline of 8% compared to this current fiscal year. Property tax revenue, I did get some estimates from the county, and right now they're projecting an increase of 2% for the current fiscal year. That is probably the lowest annual increase that we've seen since 13-14. I'm guessing a lot of that is just because of the lack of development that's happening right now, especially with residential development, just not a lot of it happening that was happening. So we're starting to see the reduction in the property tax revenue increases. So for the upcoming budget, I'm still assuming an increase of 2%. Years past, I used to assume increases of about 5%. Motor vehicle in lieu has been pretty consistent with 5% increases over the last many, many years. Recreation revenue has recovered from pre-COVID levels. For the 22-23 budget, I'm assuming a 3% increase. And then the development fees is another one. I didn't go back far enough on this figure to show the 16-17, but you know, at one point we were getting about $850,000 in development-related revenue. That has dropped to $250,000, and I think one of the policies of the council has always been, as we do these budgets, assume that baseline in the budgets. Let's not add staff, let's not add wages based off development-related revenue. We have always been assuming about $250,000. So the years we get $850,000 in revenue, that just increases the surplus for the city, because we didn't assume we're going to get that. And how we came up with the $250,000 a year is really the revenue we were receiving during the recession, some of the lowest times in the city. So this is the other slide I had mentioned, a little bit more insight to sales tax, and this is really related to the point of sale and by the different industry types we see. I split it between fuel, manufacturing, commercial, restaurants, and then some miscellaneous. But there has been a substantial increase, as you can see on here. The green line is the commercial sales tax revenue. You know, it's increased from $400,000 in 2011 to about 1.2 million, just under $1.2 million in 2021.
That comes from like Jackrabbit and places like that?
This is primarily the Silverado or Thompson's material. The Jackrabbit is more in the manufacturing, yeah. But this would be like Tractor Supply, Boat Country, those sources. So I think I would estimate 30 to 40% of this increase is from the economic development activities of the city council. Incentive program has brought in some good business. We did adjust our fees to make sure we were competitive, and I think just really, you know, Ken Zeidervart has done a good job building relationships with landowners, with developers, and he's also in charge of the building department now. So there's a lot of relationships and a lot of consistency when they start the process here in the city, and still dealing with Ken when they get to the end of the process, which I think is helpful. But we work really hard to get them through that process as quickly as possible. The other thing that this has done as part of the economic development, and one of the goals in doing that, is provide some more stability in our sales tax revenue. You can see on the right side is what is the percent of the tax revenue by those different sources. If you go back to 2008, 60% of our revenue was from the sale of fuel. So when prices were going down, sales tax revenue significantly reduced. Prices going up, it was a lot more volatility. You can see we're still having a lot of volatility, but at least now we're even at, I think, 37%, even with, this shows through 2021. But what that looks like, even with some of the start of the increases in fuel, we're still less than 40%, which I think is an improvement to provide that stable revenue source. Talking about the sale of fuel, it has provided a lot of benefits to our residents. We have the second highest ratio of officers per resident in San Joaquin County, behind Stockton. So very safe community. And then we also have the highest ratio of parks per resident in San Joaquin County. So having that additional revenue from the sale of fuel has certainly benefited Ripon, in large part of making Ripon what it is today. Some of the concerns we have with sales tax, one of the big ones is the transition of electric vehicles and what that's going to mean to the sale of fuel. And then the other one is changes to how sales tax is collected because of internet sales. So I won't spend a lot of time on the next slide, but California is one of the few states that still use the origin of the business to distribute the sales tax from internet sales. So, and that really is dependent on where that business is located that sells it. So if their factory, their sales office, and their warehouse is all out of state, that sales tax revenue goes to a county pool, and that money is distributed to all the entities in, like for us, for San Joaquin County, we all receive that. If any part of that is located in California, for instance, like a sales office or a warehouse is located in California, the city where that warehouse is located gets all of the sales tax revenue from the sale of merchandise from that facility. So Wayfair in Lathrop, all the sales tax revenue goes to Lathrop from what's sold out of there. And what this is done for us is what we show on the right. From 2011 to 2021, the amount of revenue we're getting from the countywide pool, and I would suggest this is a lot of internet sales, has gone from $250,000 to $540,000. I know League of Cities has been sending out information, at least to the city manager group, about looking at going to a destination type of sales tax basis, where wherever that package is being delivered is the entity that would receive the sales tax revenue. So that would really change California and how we do that. The impacts to Ripon, I haven't seen any projections of what that would mean, but there's a real question mark
Wouldn't hurt
next to
us.
that. I'm assuming it wouldn't hurt us.
You wouldn't think.
Yeah, I wouldn't think. Yeah. And that's it. Like I said, that was just really the highlights of the general fund revenue. Next time we'll talk more on the expense side, and then I'm planning to bring the budget for city council approval in July.
I just have one question. Stockton has more copies per thousand
Yeah.
than we do?
They need them.
Doesn't pay off.
Well, that was gonna be my point. How many per thousand do they have? Do you know?
I just looked it up in the last 6 months. I want to say we're like 1.5 or something like that, and I think they're close to 2.
Weren't they 1.7 or 1.8 or something
Yeah,
like
they
that,
could
I think,
be.
last time I looked?
Yeah.
What's that?
Yeah, that was like 1.7 or 1.8.
Very safe.
Some parts.
Okay, Chief, you got any report?
I have a couple of questions for Kevin. Can you scroll back to the graph? I think it was about the third slide showing revenues and expenses. Yes, that one. So in the recession, as you described it, basically from 2008 through the 2010-11 fiscal year, pretty significant decline in revenues, and we were running a deficit in a couple of those years. As you anticipate that there is now, I think, a reasonable possibility that we may be going into another recession. One thing that was revealing and helpful is the mix of where those sales tax dollars are coming from, and I think that'll ameliorate that. But as you're developing your budget for this coming fiscal year, how much are you keeping in mind that we may be going into an economic downturn, perhaps a pretty significant one?
Yeah, you know, it's, I think definitely as we start looking at the surpluses available and revisiting, when we established the contingency funds, there were certain policies associated with those. I think as part of the budget and looking ahead, we probably should revisit that. I think when we talked about it in the strategic planning meeting, there's a couple of those funds that at this time don't meet the policies. So, you know, with the surplus that we're projected to have for this fiscal year, I think that's something to be discussed if you take that and allocate it to those different policies. I would say that would be probably the first order of business with looking ahead at a recession. But I think overall, we're fairly well positioned because of those contingency funds. The hope is, the idea is, we have those to mitigate a downturn. We've designed those to mitigate a 3-year downturn. 3 years, yeah. And we really based a lot of that off the recession that we saw in 8-9. We kind of said, let's learn from this. If we have this again, how can we avoid laying off 20% of our employees, which really resulted in reduction in services to the community. So that was really the precipice to set up those contingency funds to prevent that from happening again.
I wasn't here when that recession hit.
Right.
But my perception too is besides the contingencies, we have several what I would consider high dollar projects we're getting ready to move into. All of a sudden you just don't move into them. And there's another pool of money, one-time money, but assuming a recession comes back, I'm not I mean, I don't want it to happen, but I'm also not worried about our ability to get through it too.
I agree. I think that's true. The other thing I would say, as we laid off 20% of our employees, I think we've hired back maybe a handful, probably not, if I remember right, 3 or 4 of the employees. And we are looking with this budget to hire back a couple more, not solely in the general fund. I think there's 1 employee in the general fund, but we have been very, very careful about hiring back employees. We really try to put an emphasis on investing one-time money into ways to make us more effective, efficient, if you will, with the employees that we have. You know, there was a large investment in LPRs to help the police department solve crimes and establish timelines, but that was done to make them more efficient. We invested in the water meter cellular technology to send signals of water use that we get electronic now. We used to send staff out to go read those all over town. So we really tried to be very efficient and learn from the recession back in 2008.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, Chief.
Nothing to report, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, next. Nothing to report. Next.
Just really quick, we have 2 items on Monday. It's planning commission meeting, 2 parcel maps, so nothing major, but if you'd like to come join us, you're more than welcome.
That was it? Oh, I was about ready to take a nap.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, James.
I've got a little bit more. I did want to report on our water usage for April. We were at 13% lower than our 2013 water usage for April. We were 6% lower than our last year, or 2021 April water usage. And then I just wanted to bring to light, bring the council to light of what is kind of happening on the state level for water conservation. nothing is in effect now, but the governor did issue an executive order back in March, late March. He tasked the water board with coming up with certain conservation measures that needed to be in place or need to be in place by May 25th. And so just at the end of April, a couple of weeks back, the water board issued a draft regulation, conservation, mandates that they sent out. There's a couple of things in there that are different from where we're at. Right now, we have a number of different measures that have been in place since 2018 or have been adjusted over the years, but our most recent was 2018. But the largest impacts, I guess, with these new proposed regulations would be watering 2 days a week for all users. And then water features and fountains would be prohibited. Again, I think we did that at one point in the past.
Yeah, couple of years.
And then the other one, which is pretty big, is the non-functional turf irrigation prohibition. So, and that's for commercial, industrial, and institutional facilities where what the state deems as non-functional would be non-recreational, not sports fields and things like that, but if it's more ornamental in nature, that would be prohibited from being irrigated. So we'll continue to see where those regulations land. That's the draft that the state has put out, the water board has put out thus far. So we'll see where that goes.
Well, what is it, the Metropolitan Water District? They decreed that on June 1st, Southern California can water 1 day a week.
Can we remind the state that they passed in 2014 Sustainable Groundwater Management Act, and the states and the GSAs have 20 years from 2 years ago to reach sustainability, and we have these plans in place to do this? Maybe management of the current laws might work better than.
They can't remember yesterday.
That's
Well, the
a
Bay Area's going
Well,
pretty tough, too.
Well, the Sites Reservoir has been built and filled,
I
hasn't
think
it, Dan?
so, right?
And
Yeah.
Temperance Flat, isn't that
Yeah.
complete?
Shasta's been raised too.
Good.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little frustrating because this is sweeping across the board, right? Depending on where you're at, everybody's in a different situation, but that's not the way they're looking at it at this point, so. We'll keep you updated as we know more.
Tom,
Bearer of good tidings.
what?
I think you'll all sleep better tonight knowing that California has one more lawyer in the fold. My son Tom passed his bar exam.
Good for
so-
him.
So we're all excited about that. His mother and I are very relieved.
Will you buy him a gift for me, please?
Of course.
I knew he'd pass.
Are you gonna give him a job?
No, he's already
But
got
let's
one.
not be too drastic.
He's got it.
Kevin,
Nothing to report.
go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So Love Ripon happened last week,
Saturday.
10 days ago.
The 30th.
And, yeah, thank you. And really neat event, apparently historically high number of volunteers, beautiful day, and it was just another one of those moments when it gives one an opportunity to appreciate the town that we live in. Speaking of water, I attended a meeting down in Visalia last week. I won't go through all the details other than to say, no surprise, but people in the southern end of the valley have a distinctly different and much more profound challenge with regard to water. We, in this part of the valley, are in the sweet spot. That said, I've spoken with Kevin, a bit with James. I will continue to encourage us to begin planning. Well, we have begun the planning process, but to move more aggressively forward with connecting our water service to the irrigation district. Being dependent entirely on groundwater is a plan that is fraught with risk. Councilman Zuber mentioned there are large projects that we may need to defer if we're in a recession. That's one I do not think we can defer. That's a project that we need to continue to pursue, and I know staff is doing that. Finally, just wanted to mention, and the prayer tonight mentioned, Pastor Rex mentioned the liberties that we enjoy in this country, and I guess I see more and more that people, particularly some of the younger generation, may take the liberties that we have for granted. And in fact, we see that oftentimes in the form of attacking the very institutions that uphold those liberties. Just wanted to share a quote from Ronald Reagan. "Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it to our children in the bloodstream. It must be fought for, protected, and handed on for them to do the same." I just encourage us at every opportunity to share with those around us how precious it is, this freedom that we have. It is so distinctly part of our American way of life, and when we lose it, it will be gone forever. Thank you.
Daniel?
You want me to go after that?
No, it's pretty dramatic.
Ditto to what Gary said, and as usual, thank you to everyone who's here enjoying these meetings. I think that's the word, enjoying them. No, but yeah, we appreciate the input. Glad people come and speak up. So that's it. Thank you.
Leo?
I have nothing.
Mike?
Nothing?
And with that, good night, everybody.